road process. I guess the more immediate news was the Bargain Market grocery store is going to be open on February the 12th, 10 o'clock ribbon cutting. If anybody wants to attend, they're welcome.
The one in the old Target space?
Yeah, the former Target space, right, exactly. And the scooters came up with the EDA last night too, right? Wasn't that?
In what context?
We're getting back into the scooter business. We're doing it in a pretty big hurry. We're getting on with it. They're trying to get the language improved based on what we had pre-COVID. We had a whole plan and scheme, and COVID knocked all that flat, and a lot has been learned from other jurisdictions that have gone ahead with it and benefit from their experience. But my impression was that there was interest in a trial plan.
Another pilot?
A pilot pretty immediately. There was some discussion of, well, let's try it for a year and see that's in effect what we're doing. Trying it for some period of time. Anyway, I know that was a topic of interest for a lot of people in the community, and so watch that space. And once the snow's gone, maybe in June, the snow will have melted enough that we can
that we could
replace it
use
with
those
scooters.
Interesting.
Anyway, they are moving forward on that.
Yeah, the scooters was on the work session yesterday, and it will be on the agenda for next week's city council meeting. I will say it's staff has been working on it for several months. I happen to know that it went to the CACT back in November, and I think environmental a little bit before that.
I'm sure they're, considering the problems with, scooters being, littering the streets and the sidewalks. The biggest problem with the scooters is that, you see errant, abandoned in quotes, scooters littering, like the sidewalks left, falling down on, in the gutter. And so I hope there's a plan with whatever vendor we use, because I know there's so many of these companies, many of which, kind of come onto the scene and then just as quickly go off the scene. And so I think we have to be careful and make sure we, it's something that there's a plan to deal with that, because, you see it with the scooters from outside the jurisdiction that still somehow find their way in and then get abandoned and sort of left for weeks at a time, sometimes just cluttering the sidewalk and other places. And so, again, just something to keep in mind, balancing the pros with, what comes along with it. So I'm sure the groups who are working on this are looking at that, because you see it in the other jurisdictions that have worked on that. But, I don't think we should just assume that scooters are something that everyone thinks is fantastic and we need to have them as soon as possible without making sure we have things in place to balance, what some of the negatives that do come along with those. Again, given our slightly different, built environment from, let's say, DC or Arlington, as far as the demand to use it. Many people here, I again, I don't know how strong the demand is for a scooter program. Again, we've kind of, I know the Capital Bike Share bikes, some of the data shows that, the usage has been, sort of uneven. And so anyhow, I'm sure people are looking at it, but I don't know, how much the city's devoting and funding wise. I forgot if it was in our CI or in the CIP. But where's the funding coming from? I don't know. Our council liaison.
Yeah. So it'll be open for, it'll be on next week's agenda. And I also know that it's going before the CACT Transportation again at the next meeting. There'll be a couple of opportunities for public comment. I will say they've definitely taken those into account. And Matt, maybe you can correct me, but I don't think there's any cost to the city. It's really more of a question of how much revenue we might be able to get from them.
I see.
That's
Right.
my understanding as well. It's more of a contract in terms of what we are willing to permit, and initially starting off a maximum number of scooters and then kind of drilling down into, are we comfortable if that is just one operator? Do we want multiple? And again, back to all the other issues that were previously addressed, but I think the previous effort constrained the parameters such that nobody was really coming in to take advantage of it. So this next pilot, And I emphasize pilot because I think we're going to continue to engage during the piloting phase as the live experiment continues, but trying to see if there's any additional corrections that need to happen and probably regroup at some point to update or remove and see how we need to act further.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there isn't a plethora of scooter companies like there were the previous time. It's basically, the market is kind of flushed out. And I think Arlington has 3, Fairfax has 1. So we're not going to see a gazillion different scooter companies because they don't exist anymore.
Well, hopefully there'll be a thorough vetting so the public can provide input on it. I imagine, I guess, I just would caution that it's probably not something that is unanimously viewed as a positive in the city by all. Just throw it out there. It comes with a lot of negative consequences. So you have to balance the revenue we might get with some of the negatives. So and if it's not managed properly, because they're dockless, so they are where they are. Someone decides I'm done with it in here, and they leave it, leaning on someone, leave it in front of someone's house on their front lawn. So I've seen it. I've seen it in Arlington, and I know people in Arlington. Again, it's not unanimously loved as a huge benefit by all. So it has to be done right. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
know
sure
what
we'll learn a lot in the pilot. They can have their drawbacks, but from a micro-mobility standpoint, I think there's a lot that's very attractive about them if you're doing it right.
Shared mobility, that's the phrase.
Shared mobility, yeah.
near the school, you may see a lot of scooters piled up
last
in your front
mile.
yard. So
That's right.
be very careful what you wish for with those things, because
Yeah.
they're all piled up in front of your driveway. You might not like them so much.
I'll ship them over to your house.
All right.
It was described as the last mile of the last mile. So you take the metro, hop on your bike share, ride it to the bike share station nearest your house, hop
right,
on the scooter and go to your front door. I mean,
Yeah.
that is the
It's a lot of moods.
that's the dream. That's the hope. That's-
Someone's dream.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, that's exactly right. It's
Yeah.
it's a vision of the city that in some ways is new, but in other ways is sort of the way kids used to get around on their own, leave the house on your bike, go to the Little League practice. I mean, people who talk about growing up here in the 50s and 60s,
They rode their
that
bikes
was the kind of
everywhere.
mobility they had, and their parents didn't schlep them everywhere they had to go.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's an interesting, I think we will learn as we go along, though, and benefiting from what other jurisdictions have
Yeah,
done
the
in the
parameters
interim.
that they've used.
It's just interesting that, the two of the highest use opportunities are the metro stations, neither of which, of course, is in the city. So the other jurisdictions, if they program their scooters to conk out when they get to the city border, then, that shuts us off. So opening ourselves up to east and west creates opportunities.
Great, well, thank you. Anything else?
Oh, there was, if people have been following the discussion of the restaurant community and other businesses, there was a good bit of discussion of their interests in marketing and promoting in the next meeting of that group that's meeting periodically, I think it's February 10th, to talk about opportunities for the city to help the business community promote itself.
Any early returns on Restaurant Week?
There was some discussion, but given all the weather and uncertainties,
Yeah, they extended it, but
I think the
imagine it was a
EDA
challenge this year.
asked for a report at their next meeting, so they did extend it.
All right, any other reports? Okay, that brings us to the director's report. Mr. Matusek.
So there are 2 items in the report. Both should be somewhat familiar. The first one is the quarterly report produced by Emily Bazemore and capturing the last 3 months of calendar year 25. So these are all the planning and zoning updates and events that have happened as we kind of rounded out and completed the last calendar year. So a lot of helpful images and things that the planning staff and zoning staff were in the middle of. So plenty of materials to kind of discover there. The second item is from Jenna Brumman, who is compiling the monthly update to the neighborhood traffic calming program. So again, a lot of helpful milestones of where every single project is, the recent steps that have taken place, and really aim just to demonstrate progress on all the various things that both our department and DPW are working on to effectively implement a lot of different improvements throughout the city. So plenty of bedtime reading there.
Great, thank you. Do you have a question, Mr. Duncan?
I do.
Go ahead.
I have a few.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt. It is indeed an impressive document. People have no idea how much work goes into running the 2.2 square miles of our fair city. As I went through it last night at bedtime reading, I did jot down a couple of things that I wanted to just ask you about, follow up on. So I'll try to be brief, and feel free to be brief in responding. Is a speed cushion and a speed hump the same thing or something different?
I believe it's the same thing, but I'm not the expert. I can get back to you on that.
Okay, I just wondered, I'd never heard, I like the phrase speed cushions, but I had never heard it, and I wondered if there's a difference between cushioning and humping. Sorry.
Was that the hardest question, or we're building our way up?
Phil, having lived with these for a while, there is a difference. The difference between us, first off, everybody in the public refers to them as speed bumps. Speed bumps are what you see in the parking lots. They're very steep
Yeah.
and severe. We don't put those in the city.
Right.
Speed humps are the gradual ones that we see throughout the city for the most part. A speed cushion has those two slots for emergency vehicles. So it doesn't extend all, you've seen that.
Yeah, that's on
And then a
West
speed table is kind of flat on the
Yeah,
top.
Right, okay, so,
So that's the difference between a speed speed cushion and a speed hump is those two slots.
gotcha. Good, thank you for that, because I wondered if the ones on West Street had the cushion category because of the slice in the middle. Okay, good, thank you.
That's exactly it. And that is not because of my council, that's because I've been in CACT forever.
Yeah, right, no, I assumed that's your CACT, the advantage of that background. Other items that are called out in the report include the West Falls Phase 2. Did I hear at one of these meetings that I've been to that there is a meeting, Matt, coming up fairly soon about whether Phase 2 of West Falls will be a go-ahead or whether the option, the developer to put up money instead? Is that decision coming up pretty quickly?
I think we are a few weeks away from that decision. My understanding is early March. I think a formal update should be made available, but our teams are meeting pretty regularly, 2 or 3 times a month on that coordination. So I think once we know something officially, we'll definitely pass it along.
Good, okay. I hope for everybody's purposes that we know the answer to that question as we go into the budget season, because it probably would have some effect on some of the other projects that I'll ask about here in a minute. Does anybody have a date for the Fresh Market as far as its opening, or is there work going on inside? Is it still projected to open sometime in the late winter?
My understanding is they're very close. We've had staff from our Economic Development Division working closely with them. They've frequently stopped in with questions. It looks like a great team, but I've not been made aware of a specific date.
Okay, good. Hopefully we'll get revenue from that project before the end of the fiscal year, certainly by the beginning of the next fiscal year. Scooters, we've already talked about. I asked you about the roundabout, which is proceeding. I mean, right now, it's obviously not going anywhere because of the snow mountain, but with the roundabout at Annandale and Maple will proceed once the snow melts and is projected to be finished still sometime in the summer. Is that right?
Yeah, I think snow is one thing. I believe temperatures are another as well, depending on the phase. But yeah, hopefully by springtime we'll see more construction activity out there.
Okay. And the Yassini project, you as the designated agent approved that. Is there a date that we can expect some activity at that site?
I do not have a date, unfortunately.
We have some confidence that they will keep at it, or, I mean, if they've gotten approval?
It's been fairly quiet, so I'm not sure if they're just gearing up and getting all their building permits in place, but
Okay,
we're
all
going to
right.
follow up on that.
Sure, no, that's fine. And the South Lee 106, 108, that idea, concept, whatever you want to call it, your document says to expect official withdrawal of that proposal as the next step. It's the first time I'd seen that written in black and white quite so much anywhere. So the proposal to do a number of townhouses is off the books, or will be off the books if they officially withdraw. Is that right?
I would say a fair assessment of that is in the current environment, given the way our adopted policy, comp plan, zoning ordinance are structured and written, it's a withdrawal. If any one of those documents changes in the near future, I wouldn't be surprised if we may revisit that. But right now, I think the path forward is very unpredictable, and therefore, I'm not expecting any updates on that.
Okay, all right. And there was some discussion about the bike trail and along Offutt and through the park and so forth, and the nature of the discussions with Falls Plaza Condominium Association and residents there. What was I'm curious to know if you can tell us what your takeaway has been from what's been said about that in the last 3 or 4 days. Is prospect of something happening in the Falls Plaza condominium, is there a prospect for that, or are we more at we're going to go this far and then we may have to stop?
I think at the moment, there's still prospects. I think there's some education and collaboration ahead of us and kind of trying to realize an agreed upon vision. Sometimes these difficult connections really have to navigate delicate conversations with different property owners. And we also have a lot of topography changes there and some engineering challenges. But if the property owner is not willing to participate, that certainly makes things more difficult. But I'm hoping the next few conversations really get past that issue.
Okay, all righty. I think that's it. Some of the other stuff will probably come up when we discuss the CIP when we next get that report, which is, are we next up for a CIP report, or is it council that you're making that presentation to next week?
The CIP, I think, is on the upcoming agenda on the 18th.
Okay, so it comes to us on the 18th. All right. And there were a couple of references on the traffic calming document itself to projects that, golly, we've been at them for 3 or 4 or 5 years sometimes. One that caught my eye was on Fowler Street, which seems to have gone through a torturous process and is on the verge of being dismissed. I know there was some discussion at one of these meetings, I think it was the retreat maybe, about where we're going with neighborhood traffic calming process and approach and so forth. What have you taken away from the discussions that you've heard about these projects that, come up from the neighborhoods and seem to take years to complete, years of time that staff has to spend and that neighbors have to spend? What have you come away with thinking?
Very deep philosophical thoughts. I think some of us view those projects as neighborhood building opportunities and establishing relationships with key stakeholder groups in certain neighborhoods. And I think as you do that, and enough projects get added to the queue, at some point you have to thread the needle of becoming efficient and cost-effective while still allowing folks to have an opportunity to participate, engage, and influence, because these are things that they're going to have to live with. And in many cases, I think, impact the appearance of certain streets and front yards. So we're doing our best to make sure that people that do feel strongly about some of the designs have a chance to be considered. But we also have a process that I think everybody agreed to follow. And in some cases, I think we have to execute and actually complete these projects. So certainly some of the active ones are allowing us to kind of reflect back on the way we are engaging these in future projects. And I would imagine in the spirit of transparency, we'll probably have additional updates in the near future about how can we be more effective, not just with staff resources, but making sure that everybody can expect maybe a more timely execution of these projects that still allows some opportunity for feedback. And that's not a, simple process. And I think we're going to have some conversations about rolling that out and making sure everybody's on board.
Okay, thank you for that philosophical answer. Good thought. Okay, finally, in my neighborhood and my fellow commissioner here, so Founders Road to Madera's parking overage situation, whatever you want to call it, staff's decided to, as I read in the report, put a Zone 3 designation on the 100 and 200 block of Southwest Street and part of Ellison Street. Is that being rolled out? I haven't heard about it, but I assume at some point there'll be information about it.
That will be rolled out. The reason for the limited geography of that program is following overnight occupancy surveys and working with our police department. We've been able to indicate that certain blocks, I think, probably could benefit from that program. Others don't seem to be as impacted upon the survey. So the ones that I think were more heavily utilized and clearly are providing some impact to the community will have the restriction placed, but we still have to go through the process of manufacturing signs and waiting for the right conditions to kind of implement that. And clearly we're probably a few weeks, if not months away, given the weather and ice.
Okay, two questions. Is the nature of the Zone 3, what hours are covered by the signs that will go up whenever they go up?
I'd have to double check and get back to you on that.
Okay, all right.
What action is necessary to expand the parking zone? The council has to do that? Who does that?
I'm not sure if there's a formal legislative process.
Right, input? I'm just wondering who gets to decide whether or not, public street gets to be.
I think it's more administrative if certain criteria are met, and in this case, some of the criteria are met, so it's not a full implementation. It's only going to impact about 2 or 3 specific blocks closest to Madera.
And is the thinking that the current no parking signs on the north side of Ellison Street go or stay or become Zone 3 parking areas themselves? Or is that the sort of information that will come to us in the fullness of time?
We can come back and embed that in the next director's report.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Stevens?
Yeah, just one item. I appreciate all the information and the effort that staff put into producing this. One thing that caught my attention was towards the end of it, under the BZA cases and hearings, it's page 28.
Yeah.
Talks about 906 Madison Lane.
Yeah, exactly.
Had a proposed ADU which was denied, so that caught my attention. So I went back in and read the minutes from the BZA. It turns out the application wasn't really an accessory dwelling unit. It was kind of different set of circumstances that they tried to label as an ADU. But it did raise a question of just how many applications we've had for ADUs, and it'd be interesting to hear from our zoning folks as far as what their perception is of what's been happening, how many people have come in and made inquiries, and once they find the details, determine that it's too difficult, or just any other kind of data like that might help us understand the impact of our ordinance a little bit better. That's it. Thanks.
My understanding, and I'm not sure if that's the same case, but we only received one formal application this past summer, August, September-ish. I don't think it proceeded, or maybe it was withdrawn at some point. Maybe it's the same case.
Yeah, this one involved a second driveway, and it turns out they just wanted to get to their garage to work on cars. They weren't going to put a bathroom or any kind of plumbing or anything like that. So it really wasn't, an ADU.
And it's difficult at this point to draw conclusions where, even within the first year of existence, is it just market conditions, or was there something in the, language itself where it just had too many controls and makes it impossible? But we can definitely kind of verify if even informal conversations happen, because those are more difficult to quantify.
Right. Yeah, thanks.
One thing to add, our neighbors across the street are building an ADU in the back of the house and volunteered if anybody wants to come over and see what it looks like. I believe they think it's the first one since we changed the by right rules, but it's on Patterson Street. If anybody wants to come by and take a look at what they're building and sort of what it looks like for the spacing.
That's great.
We'll also be putting together a summary report of the first year's worth of activity under the ordinance update. So that'll be going to City Council in a year following its adoption, which will be in the spring. And so we'd be happy to bring that to the commission too.
I noticed there's a really large structure going up in the rear of a yard on Spring Street. Did you all see that? I think it's like an artist studio. It's about the size of the house. So just something to note.
South Spring.
Yeah, if you're going down on the right side, right near few shy of the Scout House. So just take a look at it. I think it's something to think about. Like, is that sort of the kind of, is that an accessory use to the principal dwelling? Or is
Staff
it too
familiar with
tall?
that, or is that just a by right?
Do you know the address or intersection?
It's on South Spring. It's probably, if the Scout House is, let's see. Yeah, maybe 116 or so, 118 South Spring Street. Somewhere in that neighborhood. We don't have to talk about it now, but I'd encourage the commissioners to go take a look at it, because I think it might be something that we would want to talk about. Can we take a look at the look ahead, Mr. Matusik? Because the February 18th meeting, this is something, just by the way, that we used to do kind of routinely, and I think we kind of fell out of the habit. And it's useful, I think, for the commission to take a moment at the end of the director's report to take a look at the look ahead, just so we have a sense of what's coming up. So the February 18th meeting is looking pretty meaty. I'm assuming all these things have to happen on the 18th, these public hearings.
They do, however, a number of them involve just subdivisions.
So they should be quicker.
At least one or two that we've looked at with this body earlier. So there's a lot of return visits, and then I think you have some housing and CIP updates on their ongoing work as they kind of prepare for upcoming meetings. So difficult to say, I guess, which ones are going to be the longest, but I don't anticipate the initial ones will take too much time, including the facilities chapter update, which recently was discussed by the council at their work session and is really covering a pretty hefty response matrix to comments received from the last 4 or 5 months of feedback. So I think Zoe and others kind of really help format that document so you can quickly catch what's changed. But there's really nothing substantive in terms of issues, but more just accuracy and kind of responding to considerations and suggestions from the last few weeks, months.
Okay, that sounds great. And then for the next meeting, we'll have the tree canopy zoning amendment, and we saw that in work session, I think, in November. Have there been any substantive changes to that in the interim?
Only technical. The core recommendation remains the same. We did discover there were 2 minor tweaks to ensure this complies with the state provisions. So you'll see those, and we kind of direct your attention to that. But the 10% is still there, and we're kind of using this as officially establishing a baseline from which we expect to reach much higher targets through other policy documents that don't have to live in the city code. But this certainly helps with some of the ongoing conversations with the development community.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then it looks like we have a pretty quick turnaround on the CIP. We have the work session on the 18th and then the public hearing on the 4th. I know some commissioners appreciate the binders. Are you all creating those this year?
Yes, I was going to ask to see, I know Caitlin, I think, was going to default to 7 hard copies. Is that preferable?
It's helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll relay the message. I think those should be available by sometime next week, I think is
That'd be
what
great.
she told me.
So we might have a little time to review those before the 18th meeting, yeah.
That'd be good.
Yes.
Is that where, may I ask, is that where the discussion about the reshuffling of the Greenie of Lincoln various projects is going to live? I know that's been discussed here in the last week or so, changes, funding, ARPA, SLUF, I don't know, all sorts of acronyms being thrown around. Is that all going to be attempted to be resolved by the time we see the CIP?
I think any CIP issue would be fair game to raise and talk about with Caitlin during the work session.
Okay, well, I'd suggest, just having listened to other council in particular talk about that issue, it would be helpful to get as much as we can, as early as we can on that, because it did strike me as something that some folks might have some thoughts about.
The greening of Lincoln and any other specific?
Yeah, and the couple of projects drop off the list because of funding constraints, and how do we feel about that? How do they feel about that? Is that well, I understand we need to spend the money, and that all the money is going to be well spent, but at least a couple of projects elsewhere besides the Lincoln area, as far as I can tell, are going to have to be put on the whatever the calendar is that's way down the road. And that just needs to be, the public needs to be aware of that as we go through the CIP process.
All right. Any other thoughts? Any correspondence tonight?
No, Chair.
Okay, so then I think our next item is a closed session. Mr. Stevens, did you want to do the honors?
Yes, I'll go ahead and make a motion that the Planning Commission convene immediately in a closed session as authorized by Virginia Code, Section 2.2-3711A8, for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, to consult with the city attorney regarding a specific legal matter requiring the provision of legal advice by the city attorney, specifically legal advice concerning authority for the review and approval of site plans.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Polinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
Mr. Krasner,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Friedlander,
Yes.
Chair Como.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move into closed session, and then we will return here to chambers and adjourn, come back into, we will reconvene, and then we will certify the closed session, and then we will adjourn. So there's no other substantive items for tonight. All right, thank you. Please let us know where to go.
Or whenever, just let me know when you want one read.
Wait for Phil. No, there he is.
Right, we have to go back on TV.
Yeah.
From the bunker. I haven't forgotten about our design.
I guess I'll just do the one right after the other.
I think we just vote on each.
Oh, okay. All right. All set?
All set? Yeah.
All right. I move that that the Planning Commission, having concluded its closed meeting at 9:10, reconvene in open session.
Is there a second? Second with Mr. Polinsky. Can we have a roll call?
Mr. Polinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Mr. Krasner?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Friedlander?
Yes.
And Chair Comont?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, I move that the members of the Planning Commission certify that, to the best of their knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in meeting by the Planning Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Friedlander on the second. Roll call?
Mr. Polinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Mr. Krasner?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Friedlander?
Yes.
Chair Comont?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. And then I think with that, we are adjourned. Have a good night.
Told you to be quick.